Luoyang City. East Palace. His Royal Highness, you wake up soon. His Royal Highness, don't abandon Ling. Suddenly Li Xian heard the cry of a woman. Li Xian tried to open his eyes, only to find that this was a woman in ancient costume, virtuous and elegant, and very charming. His Royal Highness, you wake up, your concubine will cook chicken soup for your Royal Highness. The woman in palace clothes smiled. Li Xian wanted to say something, but realized that he couldn't open his mouth and just nodded. Rumble. Li Xian felt that his mind was about to explode in an instant, and a flood of memories flooded his mind, as if all of these had been experienced by him. Li Xian also understood in an instant that he had actually traveled to the Tang Dynasty and became the sixth son of Tang Jiaozong Li Ji, the second son of Wu Zaishan, and the current prince Li Xian. As for the former owner of this body, it was because he heard that a minister said that Wu Zaishan would bestow himself to death, and would make Liang Wangwu Sansi the prince, and was directly scared to death. Li Xian frowned slightly, and it could be said that his current situation is extremely dangerous. The identity of the prince sounds very good, but Li Xian knows that Wu Zaishan always thinks about how to get rid of himself. This year is already the 11th year that Wu Zaishan ascended the throne and proclaimed himself emperor. Wu Zaishan has changed Tang to Zhou, and Wu Zaishan's influence is extremely large. The clan of Li's surname is even walking on thin ice. You need to be careful, otherwise you may be destroyed at any time. The prime ministers of the DPRK are Di Renjia and Zhang Jianzi, both of whom are concerned about the safety of the Tang dynasty. However, due to the situation, the two of them have been working hard for Wu Zhou. Before his death, Di Renjia set up a shocking situation, so that the world returned to Li Tang without being taken away by Wu Sansi and others. The current situation is very urgent. Di Renjia was transferred back to the capital from Peng's county by Wu Zaishan. He was reinstated in his post, with the official seal in his hand, Tongping Zhang, and went to Yuzhou to deal with the Turkic mission. Murdered. And many more. The murder of the Turkic mission, wasn't that the first major case that affected the world when Wu Zaishan ascended to the throne of God? Ha 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 ha. In this case, his own safety will not be greatly threatened for the time being. Now Wu Zaishan is most concerned about the murder of the Turkic mission, which is a major military affairs. The reason why Wu Zaishan was able to become a famous female emperor in history was because Wu Zaishan took care of the overall situation. Now that the Turkic division's affairs are not dealt with for a day, then Wu Zaishan's focus is also on Yuzhou. After all, once this matter is not dealt with properly, Dezhou and the Turks will definitely break out. At the same time, the anti-war force will also use that list. I am afraid that it can contact many governors in power in the world, and even a general of the army. Once these gangsters and the Turkic Madun Khan succeeded in joining forces, it would be a devastating blow to the entire Great Zhou dynasty. It is also a disaster for the people of the world. Di Renjia will never let this happen. In the end, this incident will be revealed by Di Renjia. Your Highness, the chicken soup is here. Wang Ling Dao. Wang Ling was the eldest daughter of Wang Ku, the servant of the Central Department of Household Affairs, and also a princess. She was also a virtuous woman. When Li Xian heard the words, he felt a little thirsty, and nodded. Your Highness, slow down. Wang Ling smiled. Li Xian nodded. His Royal Highness, wipe your mouth. Wang Ling took out a handkerchief and wiped Li Xian's mouth. Thank you Linger. Li Xiandao. As long as your Highness is okay, let the concubine be willing to do anything. Wang Ling Dao. His Royal Highness, you rest first, and your concubine retires. Wang Ling Dao. Linger, I think. His Royal Highness, you are weak now, you can't. Wang Ling reminded, and then left. Li Xian didn't care much, anyway, Wang Ling was his own princess, and both her people and her heart belonged to her. Wang Ling closed the door of the palace tightly and ordered no one to disturb His Royal Highness. Since I have come to Datang, then I must control my destiny and become a peerless emperor. Li Xian swears in his heart. Ding! The human emperor system is activated and is being bound. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it. The literature of the system is the fastest to update. Ding! The human sovereign system is successfully bound. Do you want to receive the novice gift pack? Suddenly this voice echoed in Li Xian's mind. Receive the novice package. Li Xian didn't want to say it directly. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Supreme Emperor's judgment with the Supreme Cultivation Technique, so that he can be proud of the heavens and the universe and the cosmos if he has cultivated to perfection. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the Territorial Martial Arts Overlord Fist and Streaming Sword Technique. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Xian level pill Xian Tian pill. After taking it, you can cultivate to the Xian Tian realm. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring 5 profound level exercises and 5 profound level martial arts. Ding! Congratulations to the host for his allegiance to the 6 sword slaves. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting 5 loyalty pills. Anyone who takes them will definitely be loyal to the host. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining 3 character summoning cards. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Heaven level Space Ring Dragon Ring. As the host's cultivation level increases, the space will become larger and larger. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the King Detection Technique, which can check the strength of ordinary people and their loyalty to the host. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting 10,000 taels of gold. Li Xian listened to this novice gift package, and the whole person was very excited. This newbie gift package came in very timely. Where is this novice gift package? This is obviously a big harvest. Li Xian knew that once he operated properly, his crown prince would be as stable as a mountain, and he could even quickly compete for the throne and restore the world of Li Tang. Li Xian knew that the world would never be that simple. Li Xian immediately found 6 figures standing in front of him. 6 sword slaves see the master. All 6 swordsmen knelt down and said, "You will be the personal guards of this palace from now on, namely Li Yi, Li Er, Li San, Li Si, Li Wu, and Li Lu. Li Xiandao. Thank you, master, for giving the name. 6 human beings. You will call this palace Your Highness from now on." Li Xian continued. His Royal Highness Li Yi Etl. As the personal guards of this palace, in the East Palace, you only obey the orders of this palace, and the rest of the people are ignored. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness Li Yi Etl. Li Xian saw that Li Yi and others were all innate powerhouses through the King Detection Technique, which was very good for him. Later, Li Xian called Li Zongji, the manager of the East Palace, and asked him to arrange for Li Yi and others to live in the East Wing. At the same time, he also stated that no one should order Li Yuliu. Immediately Li Xian directly took the Xian level pill Xian Tian pill. Li Xian felt a warm current spread all over his body instantly, and his whole body was extremely comfortable. Li Xian felt that his whole body was full of powerful strength. The current Li Xian is definitely not as powerless as before, and he is not a cowardly prince to be slaughtered. Li Xian will definitely change himself in the future and increase his influence and appeal in the court. Xian Tiandan directly made Li Xian a master of innate realm, but there were not many innate masters in the entire Zhou dynasty. In the entire court and the arena, the innate strong are already extremely strong, and there are definitely not too many innate strong. In the arena, martial arts practitioners are divided into non-advanced, 4th-rate, 3rd-rate, 2nd-rate, 1st-rate master, and super 1st-rate strong. In people's eyes, the super first is actually innate strong. Li Xian sank. Use a character summoning card. Li Xian said silently in his heart. In an instant, the voice of the system reached Li Xian's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for summoning Bao Zheng, the superintendent of the Song dynasty. Now Bao Zheng has been implanted in the Great Zhou Dynasty, and he is the Dali Temple chief, and Bao Zheng is 100% loyal to the host. Li Xian also nodded. Although there are officials in the DPRK who support him, most of them are people who can't believe it. They are truly loyal, not themselves and Li Tang, but the interests of their family. Use a character summoning card. Li Xian continued. Ding, congratulations to the host for calling Nanxia Zhan Zhao, a generation of martial arts master of the Song Dynasty. Zhan Zhao will come to the host in half a day. Li Xian was a little excited. Zhan Zhao is definitely an innate powerhouse. He has a lot of experience in Jianghu, and he can definitely become his own right assistant. Li Xian can't wait to use the last character summoning card. Use a character summoning card. Ding, congratulations to the host for summoning Wang Anqi, the famous minister of the Song Dynasty, and he is currently implanted as an official servant. Although Wang Anqi is only a 4th grade official servant, this is also very important to Li Xian now. The most important thing for Li Xian now is to secure his position as a prince. His position as a prince is already in danger. Many officials in the East Palace and the positions related to the prince are vacant. No one is responsible. Wu Zetian actually wanted Wu Sanxi the most to become the prince, inherit the world of their martial family, and let their martial family become a real royal family and pass on through the ages. But since Lao Tzu is here, then the world can only belong to Lao Tzu. Half a day later, the guard came to report, and a man named Zhan Zhao asked to see him. Li Xian immediately asked people to make progress. Li Xian looked at Zhan Zhao to show his talents, and he was obviously a peerless master. Cao Min Zhan Zhao pays respects to His Royal Highness. Zhan Zayadao. Xiang Fei, please get up. Li Xian helped Zhan Zayadao. Li Xian used Renhuang system to check Zhan Zhao's information. Name, Zhan Zhao. Age, 23 years old. Title, Nanxia Realm, Late Innate Weapon, Giant K Sword. Loyalty, 100%. Li Xian nodded. The characters summoned by the human sovereign system are 100% loyal to him, and he can rest assured that he can boldly let them take power. Cao Min is willing to follow His Highness, and he will do everything he can. Zhan Zhao knelt down and said, Okay, this palace happens to have something to leave to you. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it. The literature of the system is the fastest to update. Please also give orders from Your Highness, and your subordinates will die without hesitation. Zhan Zayadao. Xiang Fei, you also know the current situation in this palace. The emperor wants to get rid of it soon. If it weren't for the help of several ministers in the court, and now the world is not very stable, the Emperor of Terror would have already taken action on this palace. The people in this palace are slight now, there are not many direct powers. This palace wants to build a power to control its own destiny. I don't know if Xiang Fei is willing to help this palace. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness, please say, your subordinates will die without hesitation. Zhan Zhao said without hesitation. Our secret power is called Qianlong, this palace is the Qianlong King, you are the Qinglong, and the Qianlong Hall Master. The 6 personal guards in this palace are the Dragon Guards of Qianlong King. They will contact you and provide human and material support. Xiang Fei, you now have 2 tasks. One task is to go to Yuzhu and protect a person. He is Direnja. The second task is to develop your own. Li Xiandao. Subordinates take orders. Zhan Zayadao. Immediately Zhan Zhao left with 5,000 taels of gold tickets. Since then, the Qianlong dominating the rivers and lakes has been established. At the same time, it has also absorbed many officials who are worthy of officials, which is the guarantee for Li Xian to fight for the world. The reason why Li Xian wanted Zhan Zhao to go to Yuzhu to protect Direnja was because Li Xian was worried that the most loyal courtier of the Tang dynasty would be injured by Yiyang Princess Li Qingxia because of his appearance. His Royal Highness, the cabinet of neighbors leads Phoenix to see you. Then Li Zongji walked in. Let's come in. Li Xian frowned. At this time, the cabinet leader of the inner guard came to the East Palace, which might not be a good sign. Although Phoenix is now a leader of the Niwei, Li Xian knew that Phoenix would soon become the leader of the Niwei. Such a person must be taken under his command. It was impossible for Li Xian to subdue an internal defender like Phoenix in the past, but today Li Xian has full confidence because Li Xian is prepared to use loyalty pills against Phoenix. The Inner Guard is actually the Maihua Inner Guard. It is an organization founded by Wu Zetian and is only responsible to Wu Zetian. It has won the jealousy of the royal family and ministers. The internal guards are tightly organized and act cautiously. Most people don't know their numbers and actions. However, the strength of the inner guard was amazing. The minister made a grievance or two at home, and Wu Zetian knew it the next day. However, when Wu Zetian died, Niwei was bloodbathed by the ministers and the royal family, because Niwei did a lot of unacceptable things during Wu Zetian's administration. Sure enough, after a while, a woman in a uniform walked in. It was amazing. "See your Royal Highness for the Phoenix led by the minister's cabinet," Phoenix said lightly. Phoenix knew that His Majesty the Emperor didn't wait to see the prince. This time he sent himself to the East Palace to find Li Xian's indecent style. "General, please sit down." "Li Xiandao." "His Royal Highness." Phoenix sat down without being polite. "I wonder why General Feng came this time." "Li Xiandao." "His Majesty, follow the orders of your Majesty to check the situation of the royal family and meritorious families." Phoenix rode. "General Feng, please use tea." "Li Xiandao." Li Xian looked at the tea ceremony that had been put into Zhongxian by himself. "His Royal Highness." Phoenix rode. The tea was so fragrant, and Phoenix nodded and drank it in an instant. "What happened?" Phoenix sees the master. Phoenix directly knelt down and said. Li Xian immediately helped Phoenix rode. "You still call this palace your highness? Remember not to tell anyone about the relationship between us." "His Royal Highness." Phoenix had nothing but awe of Li Xian at this time. Li Xian also saw the attributes of Phoenix. Name, Phoenix. Age, 21 years old. Realm, first class. Late stage. Loyalty, 100%. Phoenix, what is your Majesty's main business lately? Li Xiandao. His Majesty, your Majesty has been paying close attention to the affairs of Yuzhu recently, but His Majesty is very concerned about your Highness. Phoenix rode. However, your Highness must be careful. Now King Liang has contacted many officials and plans to abolish the position of Prince of His Highness. Phoenix continued. Phoenix, you should go. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness. Phoenix respectfully said. Phoenix left, but Li Xian knew that Phoenix would definitely become the chief of the inner guard within a year or two. At that time, it was also very helpful for him to fight for the throne. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it. The literature of the system is the fastest to update. Half a month passed quickly. During this half month, Li Xian stayed simple. Whether in the court or in the East Palace, Li Xian's work was not leaking, and Wu Sanxi and others would never have a handle. Luoyang City is also very peaceful. It seems that all the forces on all sides don't want to make extravagance, because they are all waiting for news from Yuzhu. All eyes are now focused on Yuzhu, which is a major event related to the peace of the world. But Li Xian knew that Direnja would definitely be able to resolve the snake spirit's terrifying conspiracy, but at this time Direnja must also not know that this terrifying layout was the work of Xiao Qingfang, the leader of today's inner guard. But even if Li Xian knew that Xiao Qingfang had planned this incident, no one would believe it, especially Wu Zetian. But Wu Zetian didn't believe it. Everything was in vain. After all, Xiao Qingfang was the leader of the inner guard that Wu Zetian pulled up with one hand. He has been in charge of the inner guard for several years and has won Wu Zetian's trust. Yuzhu, this is one of the important towns in the north of the Great Zhou Dynasty. Direnja has been in Yuzhu for more than a month. In this month, Direnja did a lot of things to rescue Yuzhu Governor Fang Qian, and then found Fang Qian unexpectedly. It was Lu Jin, who recovered the missing official silver, and confirmed that Li Er was the Turkic Jili Khan. But the biggest culprit behind the scenes, Direnja, has never been found. Even if Direnja dug out his gangster Qianiaway General Hu Jinghui, he still failed to find the real bandit leader, because Hu Jinghui did not want to say. The outstanding person Diren accidentally released Hu Jinghui. Even Li Yuanfang was very puzzled. Now Direnja was pacing in the room, and he shook his head again and again. Impossible. It's absolutely impossible. My lord, what is impossible? Li Yuanfang said curiously. Yuanfang, nothing, how is it? Direnja said immediately. My lord, according to your instructions, everything has been arranged. Li Yuanfang said. That's good, tonight is the time to really see the difference. Direnja said. It's an adult. Li Yuanfang said. Direnja had already understood the other party's plan, and the other party planned to attack the Yuzhu metropolitan government tonight. At the same time tonight Direnja also intends to catch the opponent in one go, and return to Yuzhu Lang Lang. This night was an extraordinary night for the entire Yuzhu, which was the darkness before dawn. The night is coming soon. Sure enough, everything was as Direnja expected, and the rebels began to attack the metropolitan government. After a while, Dichun ran in and said, Master, the other party has already attacked the second hall. Passenger guards, we must resist. Direnja said sternly. Master. Dichun said immediately. Kingxia, you should go back to the house. Direnja said. Uncle, I am going to be with you. Uncle is here, what am I afraid of? Li Kingxia said. Never mind. Direnja nodded and said. Yuanfang. You also help the guard. Direnja said. My lord, then you. Go, it's okay. Direnja interrupted Li Yuanfang. It's an adult, let's go to the humble position. As Li Yuanfang said, some of them disappeared before Direnja and Li Kingxia. Kingxia can rest assured that the rebels can't attack and we are safe. Direnja said. No, uncle, you are wrong. To be more precise, I am safe, but you are not safe at all. Li Kingxia shook her head. You. Are you Jin Mulan? Direnja stepped back and sighed. Yes, I am the famous Jin Mulan. Li Kingxia is serious. It's ridiculous that Direnja, who is countless enough to lose, will be defeated by the word Li. Li Kingxia mocked. What a descendant of Li, I doubted you more than once, but just because you are a descendant of Taizong, I overturned my suspicion again and again, and you still have the face to say that you are a descendant of Taizong. Direnja said angrily. Since ancient times, the lord of the princess has succeeded. Go to hell. Li Kingxia showed her dagger and directly killed Direnja. Direnja has closed his eyes tightly and seems to be waiting for death, but fortunately, this big case is over. A shiny dagger, so bright in the dark, moved quickly towards Direnja's neck. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it, the literature of the system is the fastest to update. When? With a crisp sound, Li Kingxia's dagger fell to the ground, while her left hand quickly grasped the right hand that was holding the dagger. Who? Get out for this princess! Li Kingxia roared. Tang! With a sound, a blue-clothed masked man stood in front of Direnja. Who are you? Li Kingxia said. In Li Kingxia's information, Direnja seemed to be the only one beside Li Yuanfang who was able to kill him. And who is this man in blue? Direnja also looked at the man in blue. He also wanted to know who the man in blue was. Blue Dragon. The blue man said lightly. Tang. There was another falling sound, and I saw Hu Jinghui coming. As long as Hu Jinghui is alive, no one is allowed to hurt King Xia. Hu Jinghui stood in front of Li Qingxia. Zhang Zhao didn't move, but looked at Direnja, Li Qingxia, and Hu Jinghui quietly. Regarding the situation in front of him, he didn't want to continue to do it. He was only responsible for protecting Direnja. With my Azure Dragon, no one can hurt Master Di. The man in blue said sternly. Of course, I will not take care of your affairs. The man in blue continued. Jinghui, you go and kill Direnja for this princess. Li Qingxia said to Hu Jinghui. Qingxia, stop it, I won't shoot an adult. Hu Jinghui said sternly. Jinghui, as long as we can kill Direnja this time, we will succeed. Get started. Li Qingxia roared. Qingxia, I said I won't shoot adults, and I won't kill people again. Hu Jinghui said. Jinghui, don't you listen to me. Li Qingxia said eagerly. Qingxia, I won't kill any more, let alone kill adults. Hu Jinghui shook his head. Jinghui, you really don't listen to me. Li Qingxia's eyes became ferocious. Qingxia, I won't hurt adults. Hu Jinghui said. Then you go to die. Puff. Li Qingxia directly took out a dagger and pierced Hu Jinghui's chest. Puff. Hey. Puff. Stop it for me. Direnja said loudly. Go to die too. Li Qingxia rushed towards Direnja. Bang. The blue man flew up and Li Qingxia was directly injured and flew out. Li Qingxia struggled to stand up, but at this time he had no strength to hurt Direnja, and there was also a man in blue. Jinghui, how are you? Direnja said. My lord, this is the way I should go. Hu Jinghui said. Puff. Hu Jinghui spouted blood. My lord, thank you for making me feel the true meaning of the world. Hu Jinghui left, quietly. Jinghui. 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 Direnja cried loudly. Jinghui. Jinghui. Why are you so stupid? Li Qingxia also threw herself in front of Hu Jinghui. It's a pity that Hu Jinghui couldn't hear it anymore. Ta 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 ta. Li Yuanfang and Dichun led dozens of Qiani away to come. Watching this scene, everyone could hardly believe it. Yuanfang, let Qiani away all retreat. No one can tell about today's matter. Direnja said. It's an adult. Li Yuanfang. Everyone retreats to the second hall, no one can enter. Li Yuanfang ordered. Yes. Dozens of thousands of cattle defend the way. My lord, what is going on? Li Yuanfang looked at Hu Jinghui on the ground and Li Qingxia who was a little angry and sad. Yuanfang, Li Qingxia is Jin Mulan. Direnja sighed. What? Sir, are you kidding? Li Yuanfang said in surprise. Do you think I will be kidding? Direnja asked back. It's an adult. Li Yuanfang said, in the eyes of Li Yuanfang, adults value the descendants of Li more than himself. How could he wrong the princess? Princess, a white silk, a glass of poisoned wine, you can choose for yourself. When Direnja finished speaking, he walked out of the room and closed the door. Bang! The sound of the wine glass falling to the ground sounded, and it seemed that Li Qingxia had chosen poisoned wine. Bang! Li Qingxia's body fell heavily to the ground. My lord, Li Qingxia is Jin Mulan, how can she organize such a large rebel army? Li Yuanfang said. Yuanfang, I am afraid this issue will become a permanent mystery following the death of the princess. Direnja said. My lord is absolutely right. Li Yuanfang said. Yuanfang, one more thing is that a blue-clothed masked man named Qinglong appeared just now, blocking Jin Mulan's attack for me. Just who is this person? Direnja said. My lord, is there such a thing? My lord, believe in everything in a humble position, and the truth will come out in the future. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it, the literature of the system is the fastest to update. 5 days later, the imperial court received Direnja's 600 li expedited memorial, saying that everything in Yuzhu had been solved perfectly, and he would return to the imperial court at the next day, and was shocked. Such a terrifying case could be solved by De Huaying and Sun Yu. It's really the first person in history. A stone in Wu Zaishan's heart also fell instantaneously. Once De Zhou and Turkic really started a war, then it was not good news for Wu Zhou, because the De Zhou dynasty had just experienced a war. However, Wu Zaishan had some doubts about Yiyang County Lord Li Qingxia and Qian'an Wei General Hu Jinghui. Everything played by De Huaying is permitted. Wu Zaishan said. The minister follows the decree. The way of Zhang Cambodia. Li Xian in the East Palace knew everything at a glance. Zhan Zhao's case in Yuzhu was completely solved, and he returned to Luoyang to return to Li Xian. Zhan Zhao, you are now rushing to Chengzhou to develop Qianlong. Remember not to attract attention. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness. Zhan Zhao respectfully said. 3 days later, Direnja returned to Luoyang city and faced the Wu Zaishan Yuzhu case. Regarding the list, Direnja only said that it was destroyed by the bandit. At the same time, he said that Princess Yiyang was persecuted to death by the culprits, and Hu Jinghui died for protecting himself. The big case that disturbed the whole world was over. It seemed that the whole world of Great Zhou was plunged into a peaceful atmosphere. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, 3 months passed. Ta 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 ta. A fast horse galloped quickly. Changzhou Liu Bailey emergency report. People shouted all the way, and passing pedestrians gave way. The imperial court immediately received a 6 Bailey expedited report from Changzhou. After Wu Zaishan finished reading the Tang newspaper, Long Yan was furious. Li Jinzong, this rebel, really it? Damn it! Promulgated the decree to change Li Jinzong to Li Jingxi, an order that General Wang Ziaja of the Right Waiwei and Zhao Wenhong, the chief governor of Yingzhou, send troops to the Khitan immediately to eliminate this rebel army. Wu Zaishan directly decreed. The ministers follow the order. Kunshan Road. When Li Xian stood in the front and heard this, he knew that his opportunity had come. Historically, Wang Ziaja's 100,000 right guard army was disintegrated by the snake spirit, and Zhao Wenhong's 20,000 army was also wiped out by a Turkic Eagle division. Li Xian will never let all these tragedies repeat itself. This is the most important step in changing his destiny. He must save the 100,000 army of right guards and 20,000 soldiers in Yingzhou, and annihilate the enemy as much as possible. After retiring from the court, Li Xian returned directly to the East Palace. But Direnja, Zhang Jianzi, Li Changhe, Li Yuanfang, and others went to Luanta to discuss the dispatch of troops. 2 adults, what do you think? Li Changhe, the Minister of War. There is now a vacancy in the Ministry of War, and Li Changhe, the servant of the Ministry of War, directly controls the Ministry of War. Below the imperial edict, the next day will be passed to the hands of Wang Ziaja and Zhao Wenhong. The problem now is this battle. What can we do to reduce our army's losses and eliminate the enemy? The way of Zhang Cambodia. Direnja walked to the map and suddenly his eyes lit up. You can let Yingzhou Chief Governor Zhao Wenhong lead the army through the Turks and attack the Khitan army from behind, and General Wang Ziaja will attack from the front. I believe this war will be won. Direnja said. Master Di, will the Turks borrow it? Li Changhe said. This pavilion believes that Jili Khan will borrow the way, and leave it to this pavilion. Direnja said. Thank you Master Di, we may not be able to handle the rest. Li Changhe promised. Food, grass, bedding, etc. must be strictly ordered to be supplied by Changzhou governor in a timely manner. Direnja said. It's Elder Ge. Li Changhe said. After that, Direnja and others immediately Luanta and returned to their homes. Yuanfang, I'm afraid you are going to Turkic this time to meet Jili Khan and discuss what to do. De Renjia said. My lord, take command in a humble position. Li Yuanfang said seriously. This is the ring of profuse sweat, you can take it. De Renjia said. Thank you, sir. Li Yuanfang said. Li Yuanfang knows that Jili Khan is a person who values love and righteousness and believes in faith and will definitely agree to borrow it. Bing is very fast, tomorrow, you will set off. De Renjia said. It's an adult. Li Yuanfang said. In the East Palace. Li Xian silently calculated how to maximize the benefits this time, and how to successfully rescue the 100,000 army of Yao Wei and Zhao Wenhong's 20,000 army. Li Xian thought about it for a long time, and only by himself can he be sure of everything. Li Xian immediately thought of Phoenix. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it, the literature of the system is the fastest to update. See Prince. Phoenix Road. Phoenix, get up quickly. Li Xian helped the Phoenix up and waited for his position to be completely stabilized. He must find an opportunity to win the Phoenix. His Royal Highness. Phoenix Road. Phoenix, there is one thing that needs your help. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness, please say that you must do your best to do your humble duty. Phoenix Road. This afternoon, my palace is going to the brothel, and you can just report it to the Emperor. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness, this is it. Phoenix Road. That's it, but you'd better see this palace enter the brothel with your own eyes. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness. Phoenix Road. Phoenix is obedient to Li Xian because of the loyalty pill. In the afternoon, Li Xian took Li Zongji and others to go shopping, and walked into a brothel unknowingly. He happened to be spotted by Wu Sanxi's people and the leader of the cabinet. Your Majesty, the minister saw His Royal Highness enter a brothel today, and he will come out an hour later. Phoenix faced Wu Zaishan. I thought I had wronged Li Xian by thinking twice, but now it seems to be true. Okay. Very good, the dignified prince went to a place like a brothel, I think he is enough for the prince. Wu Zaishan said angrily. Biography of Zhang Jian's audience. Wu Zaishan said. Your Majesty. Phoenix immediately ordered someone to invite the Prime Minister into the palace. After Zhang Jianzi got his will, he immediately put down everything in his hands and rushed into the palace. Meet Your Majesty by Zhang Jianzi. The way of Zhang Cambodia. I King is flat. Wu Zaishan said. Your Majesty, if you don't know how to call a minister into the palace, why? Zhang Jianzi was puzzled. I am determined to abolish the prince. Wu Zaishan said astonishingly. Your Majesty, this must never happen. Thump. Zhang Jianzi directly knelt down and said. Your Majesty, now I am preparing to mobilize troops outside. What the court needs now is tranquility and peace. Your Majesty, please think twice. The way of Zhang Cambodia. Your Majesty, don't you know what crime the prince has committed? Zhang Jianzi said cautiously. Phoenix, let's talk about it. Wu Zaishan said. Master Zhang, Your Highness entered the brothel for the first time today. Phoenix Road. Zhang Jianzi's heart suddenly relaxed. Your Majesty, you can pay a fine. His Royal Highness is just going in and out of the brothel, which is actually not a big deal. The way of Zhang Cambodia. Zhang Jianzi, pass the decree, Prince Li Xian has a personal virtue, he will be fined half a year, and he will be banned for 3 months. Without my will, no one can meet the prince face to face, and Li Xian cannot take a half step out of the East Palace. Wu Zaishan said coldly. The minister follows the decree. The way of Zhang Cambodia. Afterwards, the news that the prince was banned spread throughout Luoyang city. Some were happy and some were worried. Wu Sanxi set up a banquet in the Liang Palace to celebrate Li Xian's foot restraint. It seems that he is one step closer to the crown prince. De House. Master, Master Zhang has entered through the secret road. De Chun said. Please. De Renja said immediately. Cambodia. Huaying. De Renja and Zhang Jianzi's hands were tightly clasped together. Sit down, please. De Renja said. Huaying, His Royal Highness has been banned. The way of Zhang Cambodia. Cambodia, I just got the news, what is going on? De Renja said. Huaying, according to Niwei's news, His Royal Highness entered the brothel in the early afternoon and was investigated by the Niwei. This was the result of a ban. The way of Zhang Cambodia. What does the Prince's Royal Highness do in the brothel? I have never heard that His Royal Highness has such hobbies. Could it be calculated? De Renja said. Cambodia, Liang Wang and others are becoming more arrogant now. You and I must protect the Prince, and remember not to let the Prince make any mistakes. De Renja continued. Huaying, don't worry. Zhang Jianzi nodded. The two talked a little more, and Zhang Jianzi left. East Palace. His Royal Highness, is it a concubine who did a bad job? You must go to the brothel. Wang Ling cried. Name, Wang Ling age, 20 years old realm, not into the stream loyalty, 98%. Li Xian was also very shocked when he saw Wang Ling's attributes. Wang Ling's loyalty to him was so high, and it was normal to think about it. Wang Ling's destiny was already connected with him, sharing honor and disgrace. Linger, this palace went to the brothel, but this palace did nothing. This palace did this with our own plan. We live on thin ice every day. Linger, I will teach you a new posture tonight. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it, the literature of the system is the fastest to update. After a cloud of smoke and rain last night, Li Xian was also more energetic, and Wang Ling was also very happy. Standing in the courtyard, Li Xian quietly looked at the sky. It was time to leave Luoyang and head to Chengzhou to rescue the tens of thousands of troops and defeat Khitan Li Jinzong. His Royal Highness, the Cabinet of Neighbors leads Phoenix to see you. Li Zongji Road, Chief of the East Palace. Invite her in. Li Xiandao. As the General Manager of the East Palace, Li Zongji is also very loyal to Li Xian. It can be said that he is loyal. His loyalty to Li Xian has reached 90%. Once a person's loyalty to his master reaches more than 80%, he will generally not betray his master, unless the master does something unfavorable to his subordinates. The Minister, see His Royal Highness. Phoenix Road. Phoenix, do you miss this palace? Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness, of course I want your Royal Highness. Phoenix said shyly. His Majesty, your Majesty allows the humble position to monitor His Highness's every move and will never allow His Highness to leave the palace. Phoenix Road. My palace knows. Phoenix, can you do me a favor? Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness, please speak, you must do your best to do your humble duty. Phoenix said seriously. There is a pill in this palace, which has certain effects and benefits for people. You can find a way to let Shangguan Waner take it, even if it is dissolved in tea. Li Xiandao. Your Highness, my humble duty promises to complete the task. Phoenix said seriously. Phoenix believes that with the contacts between herself and Shangguan Waner, this will be done easily. Your Highness, resign from my humble duty. Immediately, Phoenix said goodbye, and Li Xian did not retain him. Li Xian knew that Phoenix would go back to complete the task he had given him. Imperial Palace Shuxiang Pavilion, this is where Shangguan Waner lives. Of course, Wu Zetian rewarded Shangguan Waner. Although it is not comparable to other palaces, Shangguan Waner doesn't have many complaints. After all, as a female official, she can have such a big palace. Is also a blessing. My lord, the cabinet of ministers led Phoenix to invite my lord to come over. A court lady said to Shangguan Waner. Phoenix, I will go to her right away. Shang Guanwaner said. Immediately Shang Guanwaner came to Phoenix. Waner, please sit down. Phoenix said politely. Phoenix, what are you looking for? Shang Guanwaner sat down and said. It's no big deal, this is not a good tea from Jiangnan, I want you to try it. Phoenix rode. Hey, Phoenix still understands me. Shang Guanwaner smiled. Please. Phoenix rode. It is good. Shang Guanwaner nodded, and immediately took the cup of tea that Phoenix handed over, and drank it immediately. What? It was so delicious, and immediately Shang Guanwaner drank it all. Suddenly, Shang Guanwaner realized that there was a voice deep in her heart. Allegiance to Prince Li Xian, swear allegiance to Prince Li Xian. This voice was deeply imprinted in Shang Guanwaner's heart, and it was impossible to remove it for a lifetime. This was the power of Zhongxin Wan. Shang Guanwaner remained silent and continued to drink tea and chat with Phoenix. She would not tell anyone about this. Ding! Congratulations to the host for gaining Shang Guanwaner's allegiance. Li Xian was reading in the study room and was prompted by the system. He also knew that Phoenix had succeeded, so he had another help. 2 hours later, Shang Guanwaner pretended to be an inner defender and secretly came to the East Palace and met Prince Li Xian. Slaves see the master. Shang Guanwaner knelt down and said. Li Xian looked at Chu Chu's charming Shang Guanwaner and really wanted to take her down, but Li Xian knew that it couldn't do this now. Once he did it, Wu Zaishan would find out, and that would be a bad thing. Get up, call this house the master when there is no one, and how to do it when there are people, this house believes you know for yourself. Li Xiandao. It's the master. Shang Guanwaner Bingshu is smart, she knows how to do it, and can't reveal her relationship with Her Highness at any time. When Li Xian watched Shang Guanwaner leave, he knew that he could make the next plan. Ding! A character summoning card has been issued to the backpack of the Human Emperor system, please check it with the host. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it, the literature of the system is the fastest to update. Li Xian immediately opened his backpack and discovered that there was an extra character summoning card. The system, why is it rewarding a character summoning card? Li Xian said silently in his heart. Host, every 3 months, the host will get a character summoning card. Li Xian nodded, he understood the benefits of the Human Emperor system. At the same time, Li Xian felt that the human sovereign system was definitely not simple, and I am afraid that he still has a long way to go. Use the mission call card. Li Xian said silently. Ding! Congratulations to the host for summoning Yu Fei, a famous general of the Song Dynasty, and now he has implanted the identity of General Zhou Long Wuvai. Suddenly the voice of the system appeared in Li Xian's mind like a fairy sound. This time he actually summoned Yu Fei, and the implanted identity was General Zhou Long Wuvai. The left and right dragons and guards were the 2 most elite armies of the Zhou dynasty, each with an army of 100,000, which had been stationed outside Luoyang city to protect the safety of Luoyang city. Li Xian knew that he was away from seizing the throne, and he took another big step. Check Yu Fei's information. Name, Yu Fei age, 26 years old realm, middle congenital weapon, Zangba iron gun loyalty, 100%. Li Xian must have thought that it was time to carry out his plan. It was the dark night, and Li Xian returned to the bedroom, and after some ups and downs with Wang Ling, he explained some things about Wang Ling and at the same time taught Wang Ling a cultivation method of a mysterious level. Li Xian didn't want to be alone when he was standing on a high place, enjoying the feeling of being overwhelmed by the cold. He returned to the study and wrote a letter, instructing Li Zongji, general manager of the East Palace, to hand it to Phoenix another day. After that, Li Xian took the 6 sword slaves, and took advantage of the darkness to avoid the inner guard who was monitoring the East Palace, and quickly left the East Palace. As for whether he will be known by the court and Wu Zaishan after he leaves, Li Xian thinks it is unlikely. In 3 months, Li Xian used the king's detection technique to remove almost all people with ulterior motives from the East Palace. Now there are more than 700 people in the East Palace, almost all of whom are loyal to him, above 60. Li Xian is not worried about what will happen within 2 months. Li Xian has absolute confidence in Wang Ling, the princess, plus Shang Guanwaner and Phoenix in the palace. His Royal Highness, what shall we do now? Li together. Go to the city wall and go straight down the city wall. Is the rope taken? Li Xiandao. Of course we dare not forget the things that His Highness ordered. Li together. Immediately, Li Xian and others went to the city wall and all used ropes to get out of Luoyang city. Li Xian stood under the city wall and looked at Luoyang city. Next time this palace comes back, he will definitely be a strong prince, and will never let anyone play around at will. We immediately went to the newly bought Zhuangzi in this palace. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness. Li Yeetl. This Zhuangzi was purchased by Li Xian secretly commissioned by Dali Temple Qing Baozheng. Although it is not very large in the suburbs of Luoyang, it can do a lot of things. Li Xian and the others are all inherently strong, and they don't feel tired at all running at all. In 20 minutes, Li Xian and others will arrive at Juxian Villa. At this time, the villa was also brightly lit. They received news yesterday that His Royal Highness will come. They are all from the East Palace and are loyal to Li Xian. Li Yi stepped forward and knocked on the door. Creak. The door opened. See Your Highness for humble ranks. 12 people gather for the humanity of Xian Villa. Be flat. Li Xian said lightly. His Royal Highness. Everyone. What is the current output of the winery? Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness, now the winery can produce 200 jars of real celestial wine every day. Li Donglei said. Li Donglei is the owner of Juxian Zhuang and is also responsible for the brewing and sales of real wine. Zhenxian Niang is actually the liquor of later generations, which can only reach 30 degrees in this era, but it is already very good. For the time being, you don't want to sell, just produce. Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness. Li Donglei said. Tong Lai, this is a mysterious level technique and martial art. You must use it to practice. The expansion of the manpower in the village must be faithful and reliable. Li Xian said seriously. His Royal Highness, I am waiting to swear to serve Your Highness. Li Donglei said. Li Xian nodded. Li Donglei and others were very loyal to him, otherwise Li Xian would not let them manage Juxian Zhuang. At night, Li Xian and others rested in Juxian Zhuang. The next day, the 7 Li Xian set off riding 7 good horses and went straight to Changzhou. Li Xian believed that on this trip to Changzhou, he would be able to do a very good job, winning the allegiance of the General Wang Xiaojia and the prefect of Yingzhou Zhao Wenhong. If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it. The literature of the system is the fastest to update. 7 days later, Li Xian and others arrived in Changzhou. Right now, the Great Zhou and Khitan War is imminent, and Changzhou, as the front line, controls all aspects very strictly. Those who enter the city have to go through a detailed inspection, which is also an order issued by Changzhou Governor Qiu Jing. However, for Li Xian and others, it is very simple, because they have the official discs, of course they can easily enter the city. Changzhou, an important town in the north, was the place of trade between Dazhu, Turks, Khitan and other countries, but with the advent of the war, several countries closed their trade. Let a prosperous city become depressed. However, the flow of people is still relatively large. After all, many people believe that Dezhou can defeat the Khitan. Furthermore, the city of Changzhen is strong, and it is not easy for the enemy to attack Changzhou city. However, Li Xian knew that Qiu Jing, the Changzhen governor, was a member of the Snake Spirit, and now the Snake Spirit and Khitan Legion Zong cooperated to annihilate Wang Xiaojia's army of the Right Wei and start a war between the Turks and the Great Zhou. Li Xian and others came to a restaurant, which is also the place where you can find the most news. Immediately, Li Xian and others ate quickly. Li Yi, you immediately look for a Zhuangzi named Xiang. Li Xian told Li Yi to be humane. It's the son. Li Yi etl. When away from home, Li Xian asked Li Yi and others to call himself the son, so as to ensure that he would not be targeted by the internal guards or other forces. Xiang Zhuang, this is the name of Zhuangzi agreed upon by Li Xian and Zhan Zhao. After Li Xian asked Zhan Zhao to arrive in Changzhou city, he bought a courtyard and named it Xiang Zhuang. Xiang Zhuang is temporarily the headquarters of Qianlong Yitang. It has been 3 months since Zhan Zhao came to Changzhou, and Li Xian has some expectations for this. Half an hour later, Li Yi and others returned to the restaurant one after another. My son, we have already found out. Xiang village is in the west of the city. Li together. Okay, we will go to Xiang Zhuang immediately. Li Xiandao. It's the son. Li Yi etl. Immediately Li Xian and others walked towards Xiang village. In less than 20 minutes, Li Xian and others arrived at Xiang village. From the outside, this is a larger Zhuangzi, and it is not a problem to accommodate 100 or 10 people. Stop, who are you? Suddenly 2 Zhuangding stood in front of Li Xian and others. Qianlong Supreme. Li Xian said directly. See Qianlong King. The 2 Zhuangding said immediately. Take me in. Li Xiandao. When Li Xian and others arrived at Xiang Zhuang, they all put on masks. Li Xian wore golden masks, while Li Yi and others wore silver masks. Immediately Li Xian and others entered the main hall. At this time Zhan Zhao also rushed to the main hall. You go down first. Zhan Zhao said to that Zhuangding. It's the hall master. Soon there were only Li Xian, Lu Jianu and Zhan Zhao in the main hall. Subordinates, see your highness. Zhan Zhao Zheng said. Xiang Fei is not more polite. Li Xian sat down and said. Xiang Fei, how is Yitang's development now? Li Xiandao. His Royal Highness, the development of one church is very wrong now. There are 165 people in one church, including an official, Changzhou Shihuyang Lakun. Zhan Zayadao. Xiang Fei, you are doing very well. I want to see everyone in this palace tomorrow. Li Xiandao. Your Highness, don't worry, your subordinates will send the order immediately. Zhan Zayadao. At the same time, Li Xian was a little curious about the Sihu in Changzhou, and Sihu had a relatively large power and status within a state. In the current Zhou dynasty, the rule of state and county is implemented. A state governor is equivalent to a later member of the municipal party committee, but Shangzhou governor is equivalent to a member of the provincial party committee. Under the governor's history, there are the long history and Sima who assisted the governor's history, and then there is the judge division, which is divided into 6 divisions, namely, division, 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 justice, division, division. Official examinations, etiquette, taxation, warehouse, household registration, post, prison, and engineering water conservancy affairs. Recording events and joining the army responsible for supervising and dismissing the 6 officials of the prefecture, is equivalent to the duties of the imperial court Yushitai and Shangshu. Of course, Sihu can also be called Hu Cao. On the second day, Xiang village became lively, with people coming and going, and everyone in the hall arrived one after another. Finally everyone rushed to Xiang village. The Qianlong king is here. Zhan Zhao said loudly. I saw Li Xian wearing a golden mask, guarded by Li Yi and others. Li Xian watched all the people standing in the yard standing still in the courtyard, and most of them had the strength of third-rate masters, and even 2 of them were first-rate masters. Li Xian was also very shocked, and Zhan Zhao had controlled such a powerful force in less than 3 months. See Qianlong King. Everyone. Free gift. Li Xiandao. Thank you, Lord. Everyone. Li Xian directly used the king's detection technique to check everyone's loyalty to him. In the Qianlong organization, the first rule is to be loyal to the Qianlong king. Li Xian found that most people have a loyalty of more than 60 points to him, but 6 people have low loyalty to him, less than 10 points. Then these 6 people must not have sincerely joined the Qianlong organization, they can't say that other forces have scored Qianlong's spies. You, and you. Li Xian pointed to the 6 humanities who were unfaithful to him. You all come forward. Li Xiandao. It's the Lord. The 6 immediately said. Are you convicted? If you like to bring the system to the Tang Dynasty, please collect it, the literature of the system is the fastest to update.